Companies try to innovate as quickly as possible, and obviously everybody has the same challenge. What kind of innovation we should pick up to make sure that we will work out, eventually will bring money or create the new margin opportunities. And one of the important things I noticed speaking to customers working on project is how chief digital officers or how chief artificial intelligence or chief innovation officers shape the culture within the company. I realized after studying my customers, talking to executives and conducting projects that there are several, actually 5, critical elements that I believe should be on every chief digital officer, innovation officer, or AI officer mind. First one is putting digital as the critical component of the growth. We might remember when companies were conducting offline operations like retail, for instance, and then somewhere in the internet offering a little bit of digital experience, like maybe browsing the list or building a shopping list. Those words were kind of parallel and sometimes intersect each other, but usually they were different units. From organizational structure point of view, they were separate groups of people working on separate projects. And chief digital officers consider that situation as a good enough to offer another experience. The great example could be also the agriculture business, where one thing is to grow and take care about animals and plants, and the other side is analyzing digital data. Sometimes you might make a data-driven decision, but usually you are considering and you're worrying about taking care of the soil, nutrition, and other stuff. Putting digital as the growth component means that border is actually blended or it's even disappeared. Now people working in the retail stores are also implementing digital tools, leveraging, for instance, employees gratification platforms or micro-learning platforms, because they consider that as the critical part of the growth. It's not only important for customers to buy that goods or for farmers to ride that tractor, but if that tractor is going to help the farm in the maximum possible way, it should be data driven. So the tractor should help farmer decide where to go, when to go, and what time of day to go. Depends on, for instance, predictive maintenance factors or weather factors, or for instance, the part of the year that the tractor is being used by the farmer. So putting the digital as the growth component is one of the critical things that chief digital or chief innovation officers should, I believe, should consider. The second is actually studying customers more, their organization. I don't want to mention Jeff Bezos because it's usually a legend, but I think in this particular moment it's worth to quote Jeff Bezos, who said that there's no point to study competitors because they are not going to give you any money. The point is to study customers, because that's only one way we can attract some money to the company. And I think in this simple sentence from the brilliant business mind, this is something very critical to consider. That chief digital officers, they need to take care about processes, automation inside the company, financial aspects of innovations, safety, privacy, data protection, but they cannot, I believe, they cannot accept the comfort of not studying customers enough. Studying customers means constantly be up to date with conversion rates, with churn rates, customer lifetime value rate level, metrics like number of FTEs involved in customer service, NPS score, and other metrics that actually are like pulse and heartbeat to human body. Those are critical metrics to business condition. So if the chief digital officer is too much in administration with his or her mind, or spend too much time analyzing processes and improving organization without spending time on the edge, on the frontier, when the customers' data are being transferred and processed, it's not good initiatives, because at the end all the processes inside should be navigated by the world outside, so company should adjust. I was talking in one of my videos 3 reasons why managers can't ignore AI about changing the strategy orientation. If you think about now how we buy stuff, we usually buy it first and then pay afterwards. That will change in the future, though. Companies will be able to predict as much that they will be sure to ship us products before we even pick them up on the website, so we can pay later or make the return. This is not possible if chief digital officers or innovation officers are too much internally involved and ignore outside world. Element number 3, it's creating agile, fast-paced environment. Agility means you basically try to test as much innovation as possible with a short period of times. That's why the sprint 2 weeks period are so popular when it comes to agility, but also an opportunity to make mistakes and learn from them during lessons learned or retrospective meetings. If that culture is created internally, it's going to analyze one important element: what the customer think. If we think about agility, it leverage a short amount of time and a lot of testing, prototyping, wireframing, because the one goal is to find a product or a service that will quickly find appreciation on the customer side. So creating that kind of environment is critical. On the other side, we have slow-paced, well-planned, long-term projects where instead of thinking in weeks of delivering cycle, we're thinking in months or even quarters. What's the distinction? The difference, the one big difference is that in the old traditional way of conducting innovative projects, you just get feedback later. In this agile environment with fast-paced interaction with customers, you get feedback quicker, which means that you can correct or even redesign the product or a service faster, so your time to market it's shorter, and that's very critical. So chief digital officers building environments where innovation is being tested constantly, they probably should consider only an agile culture and abandon those projects delivered in cascade mode, when one task follows another and the chunk of times are longer period of times, like months or even quarters. Element number 4 that I find out when the chief digital officers are successful and successfully introduce innovation is building partnership and constantly scouting for partnerships and new technologies. Let me give you an example. One of the managers in a huge pharmaceutical company I've been working with, his lifestyle was completely different than other managers. He started the day by having a breakfast with startup representatives. After a lunch break, he was on the call with technology inventors, like venture capitals that invest in technologies, but also with inventors who are working on new medicine, new digital solutions for fighting with, for instance, medicine adherence and other problems. After a week, he conducted usually from 10 to 15 meetings with people that at the first glance cannot contribute to his business, but at the end he had a perfect network with people that are constantly working of redesigning the healthcare and the pharmaceutical company. This is what I called an open innovation. This is what it's called an open innovation, when you actually constantly look for new technologies, new digital services, and then after conducting hundreds of meetings, you might see 5 or 10 technologies that if you bring under the roof of your company, that will redesign your customer experience. One of the example I want to share, it's also an energy company I've been working with. After getting out of the office, conducting research, going over 250 startups and venture capitals, we eventually find out 3 companies that completely redesign the value chain between this energy company and its B2B customers. So chief digital officers and chief innovation officers, it's great when they spend time outside, when they spend time constantly looking for that light that, if brought under the company's roofs, will redesign a lot, will actually move the needle, will make that big leap. It's not incremental improvement then, it's just the disruptive change that will provide at the end the higher value, the higher NPS score, the higher conversion, and more satisfaction on the customer side. And the last thing is a shipping culture. Instead of making a big projects that are being reported quarterly, all the projects, all the tasks are being cut to small chunks. There's a famous saying that it's easier to eat the elephant if you sliced it. And there is a lot of meaning in that quote, that famous sentence, because even if you have a lot, the big project, if you slice it, it's easier to communicate it, it's easier to deliver the next task. But one of the important thing it is that nowadays chief digital officers, innovation officers, and artificial intelligence officers, they need to conduct a lot of projects, because conducting those projects will increase the chances to find that project that will actually change the needle, that will actually bring this higher ROI or they redesign their margin. You cannot bet on 1 or 2 projects. Procter & Gamble, Intuit, Amazon, Nike, they conduct thousands of experiments per year just to find out several of them will work. That's how Amazon Prime was discovered by one of the employees of Amazon. And now it's a huge revenue driver for Amazon. So shipping culture is very important. If you have many projects and some of them are huge projects, like 3, 4, 5 years, constantly cutting them into small chunks will ensure the organization that those projects will move forward at the fast pace. But also there is one more benefit, that the smaller project, less important, will not interfere with the big ones. Slicing all of them into small chunks equally and bringing prioritization will make sure that digital officers and innovation officers are still pushing things forward on daily basis. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and thank you for being here, and I will talk to you later. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.